In the words of the Beatles, strawberry fields are forever. And strawberries are actually one of those crops where you can make your strawberry plants and your harvests last forever. So you never have to buy strawberry plants again from the supermarket, and you never have to buy strawberries either if you do it correctly. And in this video, I'm going to tell you and show you just how you can ensure that you never have to buy strawberry plants again, and you can possibly never have to buy strawberries from the supermarket again either. So keep on watching to find out. But before we get into the video, I would just like to introduce myself to those of you who are new to my channel. My name is James, and this is my allotment where I talk about everything vegetable gardening related, and I just share the tips, advice and knowledge that I have really, and hopefully I can learn some new things off you as well. So if you like the video, then remember to hit that like button because it really helps out a lot. So with all that being said, let's get into the video of how we can make our strawberry plants last forever and ensure that we never have to buy strawberries from the supermarket ever again. Now, strawberry plants aren't an overly difficult crop to grow. They're really easy actually, and they can grow in pretty much any soil, so long as it's well draining yet moisture retentive so it doesn't dry out too much, and has a good amount of organic matter in there like compost. And of course strawberries are going to appreciate feed as well. What I like to do when just before the flowers and stuff start appearing on these strawberries, I will apply a little bit of liquid seaweed feed like Tomarite. That works really well, and I'll apply that sort of around March, April time, just before the flowers start coming out in May. And they'll also appreciate natural organic fertilizers like blood, fish and bone. They'll really like that, and applying a little bit of sulfate of potash as well will also be really great for the fruit growth and development. I applied a good bit of sulfate of potash when I planted these last year, and yeah, potash is really good for promoting healthy fruiting in pretty much any fruiting plant actually, not just strawberries. Now, as well as a free draining but moisture retentive soil, you also want the soil to be slightly acidic. A pH of 5.5 to 6.5 is preferred by strawberries. And if you find that your soil is too alkaline, then you can actually acidify it slightly by adding some ericaceous compost or some pine needles, as well as a mulch, applying them. That process is much slower though, as you're going to have to wait for them pine needles to break down. And that's what I've done here actually in this bed of strawberries. I've mulched the soil with some pine needles and wood chip, and that does two things. Well, actually, it does three things. It will slowly acidify the soil, given it will lower the pH to a pH that strawberries like best. Strawberries can access nutrients much better in the soil when the pH is lower. The higher it is, if it's too high or too low, they're not going to be able to access their nutrients. So it acidifies the soil, and it also acts as a bed for the strawberries to sit on. Some people use straw, but wood chip also does the same thing. Stops them strawberries from touching the soil and keeps them clean. You don't want soil all over your strawberries, do you? Nobody wants that. And you get bugs in them and slugs eating them. And speaking of slugs, they don't like to be traveling, crawling. The slugs crawl? Slither. They don't like to slither over pine needles. Strawberries can grow pretty much anywhere. A little bit of sun is all that's required really to grow them. They don't mind a bit of part shade. Now I've got a few beds of strawberries here. I've actually got a big strawberry cage here which I built a couple of years ago to protect the strawberries from the birds, and it's held up really nicely. It's got a door that opens up, but I've filled it up now, and because strawberries spread so much, I've ended up with so many more plants. And I've actually got another raised bed here full of strawberries. I've got some more pots and stuff and containers with strawberries in, and I've even got strawberries in the polytunnel, but I'll show you that afterwards. I'll show you why I do that. But strawberries actually spread via runners, and each plant can produce up to 12 runners each, and each one of them runners is going to produce a new plant. So that's why I said that you could actually ensure that you never have to buy strawberry plants ever again. Now, when I took this plot on 4 years ago, I had a small bed, smaller than this, of strawberries, and I've actually managed to spread and expand my crops, the amount of strawberry plants that I have, all because of these runners. Now, the process of taking a runner off your strawberry plants is you take the runner and you push the end of the runner in a pot of compost, and I use a paper clip to secure that runner into the compost. And what will happen is, over a few weeks, that runner will send down roots and grow into a whole new strawberry plant. Now, you do need to wait a good month or two for them roots to establish before you cut the runner, cutting the plant away from the mother plant, because that mother plant is going to provide that runner, that new plant, with energy until them roots are established. So once them roots are established in that new plant, you're going to cut the runner, and then you've got a whole new independent strawberry plant which will produce fruit next year. Now, of course, strawberries are covered in seeds, as we all know, and you can plant them seeds and they will grow into strawberry plants, but this process takes much longer, and it's just, it's very finicky, and it's going to give you a crop much later. It's going to take much longer for them little strawberry plants to grow and mature into a full-size plant. So doing it via the runner method is much quicker, and obviously we want to do things much quicker when we're gardening, don't we? We don't want to be wasting time. We want to be having harvests as quick as we can, especially strawberries. We don't want to be waiting too long. So that is how you can ensure that you have strawberry plants all the time, every year, and you don't need to buy any more plants. One strawberry plant can turn into a few dozen in just a couple of years. And actually, strawberry plants only remain productive for around about 3 years. After that, production tends to drop off a little bit, and you want to replace them. But if you're taking runners every single year, then there should be no problem with that. You should be able to replace them 3-year-old plants with your plants which you got from the runners the previous year. But of course, as strawberries can throw out loads of runners, up to around a dozen per plant, that can draw energy out of the plant, and that can give us runners at the expense of fruit. So it is best to cut these runners off if you're wanting fruit from them. But if you're wanting to produce more plants, then leave them runners on there. But what I like to do, just cut the runners off a few plants which you want to fruit, and then just leave a few plants just to produce runners for new plants for next year. So we're here in the polytunnel now, where we've got our hanging basket strawberries, which I've also saved from runners. And these plants are now 2 years old, and they produced a really good crop really early last year, around about 1 month earlier than the ones outside. And the ones outside are June bearing strawberries, which mean they fruit and bear fruit and give us a harvest in June. So these ones, I think it was sort of like around about the 12th of May last year, we had our first strawberries. And there are strawberries on here now. There's quite a few of them, so that's good. That's good. But I think we are a little bit later this year because we have had a lot of cool weather and wet weather, and it's been very dull like it is today, so not as much sunshine. So they are a bit late this year. But it's well worth doing. There's actually strawberries growing on here, whereas the ones outside are only just starting to bud and fruit and flower now. And last year, like I said, we started picking our polytunnel strawberries at the middle of May, roughly, and we were picking strawberries then outside. So once these ones finished in the polytunnel, we started picking our outdoor ones around the middle of June, and we were picking them until around about the middle of July. So that's a good 2 or 3 months we were picking strawberries for last year. So we had a good supply of strawberries then. And if you have enough strawberry plants, if you have the space to have loads of strawberries, you can actually freeze them, and then you can have a good supply of strawberries throughout the winter up until you harvest again next year. Now, of course, strawberries, when you freeze them, the texture isn't as good as fresh strawberries. You know, they're never, frozen fruit and veg is never going to be as good as fresh. But if you like to eat strawberries with yogurts, ice creams, if you like to cook with them, you know, put them in cakes, pies, and things like that, then freezing them is fine. You know, I found I just take the frozen strawberries straight out, stick them in a yogurt, and that's how I like to eat mine. Now, if you are freezing your strawberries, the way I like to do it, to ensure that they don't stick together in a big frozen clump in the freezer, is I like to get like a plastic tray or a dish, something with quite a large surface area. And then I get a little bit of baking parchment, stick it on, and then I will layer my, obviously I'll prepare my strawberries, wash them, cut the stalk off them, and I will then lay them out on the tray, and then I will stick the whole tray in the freezer, in my case the chest freezer which we have for allotment veg, and I'll leave them for around about 12 hours until they're all frozen, and then I will just decant them into a container, and this way the strawberries do not stick together in a big clump because they're already frozen. Where if you were to just stick them all from fresh into a tub and stick them in the freezer, it will just end up with a block of strawberries, and unless you're planning to eat the strawberries all at once, it's not really a good idea to do it that way. And yeah, if you have enough strawberry plants and you get enough of a crop, then you can, you know, by all means you can have enough strawberries in the freezer to last until next year. So it is possible to never have to buy strawberries ever again. And strawberries are very expensive to buy during the winter when, you know, when it's not strawberry season. You know, they're like £3 something for a small punnet of strawberries. It's ridiculous, really. Obviously they are much cheaper in the summer, but yeah, you are going to save yourself a lot of money in the long run, especially when you're taking plants from runners and you're never having to buy strawberry plants ever again. You know, there's such an incredibly productive crop, and they spread so much. It is crazy. You know, this one strawberry plant here could produce 12 more plants for next year, and it could just keeps multiplying year after year after year. So yeah, and strawberry plants are expensive as well, I've found. You know, places like B&Q, you know, you're going to be spending around £5 for a hanging basket with a strawberry, and I've not had a look, but I can guess it's probably going to be around a fiver for a hanging basket strawberry with just one plant in it. You know, at least probably more than that, actually, to be honest. Knowing B&Q, very expensive. I highly recommend starting off some strawberry plants in the polytunnel for that extra early harvest. And of course, there are many different varieties of strawberries which you can grow. I'm not entirely sure what varieties we have because they were already on the plot when I took it on a few years ago, but I think they are Cambridge favourite. They're a really nice, delicious strawberry, and I've tried to identify them, and that's what I think they are. But there are other varieties, and mine are June bearers, like I said before, but you can get varieties which fruit all season long, ever-bearing strawberries, and that'll give you a harvest over a longer period of time. And there are also strawberries which are earlier, which will fruit May, June time, and there are also strawberries which will just fruit later in the season, you know, July, August, possibly even September, some of them. So there are different varieties to try there for harvesting at different times of the summer season. So if you were to have an early fruiting strawberry, maybe a mid-season strawberry, and then a late season strawberry, you can stretch your harvests even further, especially if you have a polytunnel or a greenhouse. You know, you can get these early strawberries in May, and then you can have an outdoor season where you're picking from July through to August, and then if you've got a late fruiting variety in the polytunnel as well, you could even have some into September as well, possibly even October. So I hope I managed to provide some useful information to you today, and I hope I managed to show you just how easy it is to grow your own strawberries and save your own runners to grow more plants and expand your crop for absolutely no cost whatsoever. Just a little bit of time and a little bit of effort, and you'll end up with loads more strawberries. And it saves you buying more from the shop. You know, you don't need to. You can just get free plants from these runners. And who doesn't like free plants and free food? So it is definitely possible to save your runners, to grow more plants, free plants, so you never have to buy strawberry plants ever again. You know, you can just keep saving runners and producing more plants year after year, replenishing your old strawberry plants after 3 years, and it's just a continuous cycle. And it's also possible that you may never have to buy strawberries ever again if you save them and freeze them to eat throughout the winter months until next year. Now, I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, the best way you can support me is by subscribing to the channel so you can see when I upload new content just like this. Thank you very much for watching my video on how to never buy strawberries or plants ever again. I hope to see you in the next video. Happy gardening and stay safe.